Alright, so I'm out here in Wimberley, Texas at my friend's house. I'm waiting on them right now, so I'm making a quick video of the S-160. I'm making this video just to show you and walk through the kind of things I want to do to the truck. First thing first is the winch. The winch needs to be re-spooled. I've got the lever working on it finally, and the PTO drive works and everything, so I just have to get it engaged and spool up a new spool of cable on it. Next thing, of course, as you know, this used to be a fire truck and it had these red lights. However, the circuit for all this stuff is completely deteriorated, and so I have some old KD 966 lights that I have messed with to fit 5 3/4 inch headlights in. So I'm going to make some auxiliary floodlights for this. I got the logo for that. Got that one from my buddy Alex. Let's see here. This is the cab right now. This is actually the spotlight wire. I had to replace the handle. So it works. I just need to connect it to the back of the ammeter there. Gotta obviously go through the headliner and connect the dome light and clean up some of this stuff. Let's see here. This here is the old wiring for all the emergency lights. I need to go through that and decide what I want to keep and reuse for different stuff. That obviously ran the red lights and the siren lights. Here we have like the siren brake and everything, which obviously is not connected to anything because the siren's gone. Auxiliary fuel tanks, some of that stuff was on the fire bed that I removed, so I'll have to, this is the fuel tank selector, and this is a fuel gauge selector. So I'm thinking I will have an auxiliary tank on this eventually, but that's far in the future. Here are the gauges. It's hard to see from this angle, but I'm going to be replacing them, I think, with R series gauges because I love to have the IH in the middle of them. And then I can get all 4 gauges instead of like idiot lights for the oil and alternator there. I can get them all on gauges. Right now I have mechanical and for the oil, and then obviously a 60 amp gauge right there. All right, so the back of the truck. I know that everyone thinks it's cool that this thing has dualies, but my actual plan for this thing is to make a spacer reminiscent of the like a S-140 would have a single rear wheel spacer where it brings the mounting surface for the wheel out about 5 inches, and then we'll run a single rear wheel on this thing, and then the 9-foot bed that they made from 50 to 56 will bolt right up on this frame. So when that happens, I'll be taking off these bumper wings. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that pintle hook, even as cool as it is. And then I'll just be running like a conventional rear bumper. Here the saddle tank is coming off. The original tank goes under the driver's side skirt there where it's empty right now. I took it out. It's pretty damaged and it's got holes in it, so this will come off. Now that I've had this on here though, I'm curious as to how it might actually go with a pickup bed on here, and this might end up being my auxiliary tank, and it's possible I could run 2 auxiliary tanks and have one over there on the other side, but we'll see. Might also be cool to have a toolbox. Let's see. All right, so got this stuff in here. It's kind of a mess, but this truck, there's a holes for it, but it never had a heater. I have the line setting ticket and it never came with a heater, but I have a complete 50s heater for it, that is vintage correct, but I also have a 40s heater out of a KB that clearly went through International's refreshing program, certified, used, whatever, rebuilt, and it has a 50s IH logo on it instead of the triple diamond like the KBs used to have. So I'm wondering which one I'm going to put in there, because the KB is a better heater. I mean, they'll burn you out of the cab, whereas the 50s heaters are usually pretty gutless. But we'll see. This is the control panel for all the emergency lights. Right now, that one's just wired up for the beacon light on top that spins. I'm going to be putting in the light switch for the floodlights that these red lights are going to be changing to, where you pull it out the first thing and it'll come on with the high beams, and you pull it out of second position and they'll just turn on by themselves. The lighter right now, I'm not sure that it doesn't work. It's just not connected. So right now that's my power port, but I will be getting that working and take that bogus one off of there. And then up here we have the sun tack. This was a factory / dealer option for Internationals in the 50s. Pretty hard to find. The problem with this is that the transmitter, which is a box that goes on a firewall, I took it apart, super corroded, but I found another one, and the electronics inside it are pretty simple, so I'll be rebuilding that on a video very soon so that I have a tack. It also has a power supply. They originally ran them on mercury batteries because it was a very consistent voltage supply, whereas just using like a AA won't work for it. So you have to get a voltage supply that you can use consistently. So I'm just going to use like an LM317 voltage regulator circuit, but I'll walk through that in the video when I make it. One more thing in the cab as long as I'm in here. I know there's probably a million things I'm overlooking. The wipers, I've got to figure out why they're not working. I'm thinking it's just wires. I might have to take it apart and clean the motor or something. This is actually the 4-wheel drive indicator light. Typically they were over on the other side of the dash, but this one never had one. I think this is factory. There's a switch that's basically like a lever. It's the same Delco switch that they use for reverse lights in like the 40s and 50s. It's the same switch. I don't have the number on the top of my head, but it's probably below the screen because I'll look it up before I edit this. All right, so now we're under the hood. The way this is all rusty in here, just like looks like it's been bathed in rusty water, is because it has. That was all from the original radiator boiling over and coating all this stuff in rusty water. It's most evident here on the relay box that I made. And if you're not familiar with this, this is my relay box. So I'll make a video about how to run one of these without, making bogus looking relays all over the inside of your vintage vehicle. But this is just a godsend for these old trucks. Definitely makes faster starting, brighter lights, all that. Another thing that I'll be making, I removed the hoof governor that was on this truck. This truck most BD 264s came with the 2-barrel Holly carb, but this one came with the infamous 1904 because that's what the hoof governor ran on. However, I took the hoof governor off, I rejetted the carb, but I need to make a spacer that goes beneath the carb and the manifold, because this is a recipe for vapor lock. So that's one thing I gotta do. The other thing I gotta do is this thing, if you see it, it's got a bypass oil filter, which means it doesn't do a lot. It does not have full flow oil filtering, which this motor is too nice, runs too good, and is too tight to just throw away with a subpar oil filter. So I'm going to be making a oil filter adapter for this like I did with the other one. I know I could just put an oil filter on there, a full flow from a later model truck, but I just want to overdo this thing so this thing will last as long as it possibly can. So that oil filter's gotta go. So that may be one of the first videos I make about how I'm going to upgrade this truck. I guess one thing that I've already upgraded and I get a lot of questions about on Instagram, especially a lot of direct messages. This is a headlight upgrade that I would suggest to anybody with old 7-inch headlights. In this way, they look original, still glass, but it is bright. And I put, these are Sibby bulbs, 7-inch. I can't remember the part number off the top of my head, but they weren't available for quite a while in the States. And then they got, I guess some guy on eBay got some more of them. So they're about $60 a piece. So, you know, you need 2 for the front of your truck. And then if you put, right now I'm running hella high wattage bulb inserts, because this is just a housing, and then you can insert any bulb you want in there. So if you wanted LED bulbs, you could have LED bulbs in there, but it still wouldn't look bogus like LED, you know, modular headlights look. So it would still have the old appearance, but it would still have the brightness of whatever you put in there. These headlights are 100-watt high beams and 80-watt low beams. And the conventional 7-inch bulb was, I think, a 60-watt high beam and a 55-watt low beam. And you can get the hella bulbs, 100-watt and 55-watt low beams. So guess one last thing, not as far as like upgrades, I guess you'd call it an upgrade. I have to take this transfer case. It's a Timken T32. I have to take it apart, reseal it. It leaks really bad. At that point, I can go through and see if the bearings are all still good. I think they are. It seems to be running pretty smooth, but I'll replace this brake band. The crazy thing about this particular transfer case, not T32s in general, but this one itself, this does not have a fill plug. I actually had to take this top plate off of it in the junkyard and fill it with fluid after I had drained it, because I realized there's supposed to be a fill plug right around on this boss around here, and it doesn't have one. So I have to, when I take it apart, I'll have to machine a hole in it and thread it and everything. So as far as, you know, drivetrain stuff, also this, the rear pumpkin, it leaks, it spews oil out of the vent a lot, and one of the wheel seals leaks. So I have a lot of going through this thing and, you know, just tidying it up and resealing everything. I'll be doing probably the same thing down here underneath. This transmission could use it. T9, that's the PTO there on the side, right about here. I could reseal all of that stuff. I mean, this truck leaks from pretty much everywhere. So I'll be going through everything. The one thing that I haven't seen it actually leaking from yet is the rear main seal, which is actually pretty impressive since that's the most common culprit. But anyway, that's pretty much, yeah, see, this is where the fuel tank goes that I have out right now because it has holes in it and stuff. I have to repair it. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the first laundry list of things I have to do to the S-160. So I'm guessing the first thing I have to do, that I'm gonna do, is those floodlights, because I just really want to do that. So anyway, then I'll get the winch going and everything and start correcting all these leaks. So stay tuned.